Quotation from myself, segment 82, quotation number 986. I feel ambivalent about Toronto. I honestly don't know whether to like or dislike it, to praise or to condemn. At first it shocked me by its coldness and indifference. It crushed me by the harshness that was too much to bear for someone who grew up in a warm and welcoming town on the Black Sea, for one who has spent his tender years surrounded by people generous with friendliness, love, and attention. But in Toronto in the 70s, when I arrived here, and for me, this was nowhere to be found. And defenseless, I was being relentlessly and mercilessly destroyed physically, emotionally by it. Yet this arrogant, icy city also woke me up. It forced me to look with unprotected eyes at the reality of human existence, uncompromising, non-negotiable, finite. It has taught me a lesson which happy, carefree life never does, that our days are numbered and shouldn't be wasted in a lulling somnolence of immobilizing warmth. Then I began to write to relieve my pain, to spread the ointment of words over the wounds of rejection, to lick them with a tongue of explanation and reconciliation, to resume my life in a new incarnation. For suddenly, in this inhospitable place, I was doing what I always wanted, but was never comfortable, but was too comfortable to do before, in the bosom of my complacent past. And now I think I'm beginning to understand the terrible and irresistible attraction the city like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Berlin, London, New York held for the young and cuddled provincials like I was in my sunny youth. They sense, perhaps subconsciously, the inescapable urge, the necessity to die first in order to be reborn to the new, exciting and creating life they dreamed of in their sleepy, smothering towns. And those monstrous, indifferent and cruel metropolises providing them with the ample opportunity for the first and beguiling promise of a chance for the second, for death and the rebirth. 987. No matter how creative an artist is, like the rest of us, he cannot escape the limitation of his particular personality. On the contrary, the more unique as an individual the artist is, and the more original is his talent, for in an artist the personal uniqueness and creative originality are inseparable, the more all his creations carry the immediately identifiable imprint of both. And in the best, this distinction of character and talent is so highly pronounced that one can always recognize the work, say of Verdi or Mozart, even when listening to this or that particular piece for the first time. But the negative side of uniqueness, is its inherent restrictiveness, for it contains within itself its own boundaries, stepping over which leads inevitably to the loss of this precious originality that makes a great artist. And since these boundaries put a natural curb to the diversity both in form and content of work the artist is capable of producing, the readers, the viewers, the listeners, who are forever looking for the new experiences, will eventually be driven away even from their most favorite poet, composer, or painter. For sooner or later there comes a moment when it is impossible to deny any longer that once you saw or read or heard one, you saw them all. Thus it is not the fickleness of the spoiled public, but a creative limitation imposed on any artist by his unique personality, which is ultimately responsible for a constant surge of the new talents and corresponding abandonment of the old and familiar ones, no matter how good and creative they still are. Does an artist have any protection from this worse than death fate? Ideally, the capacity to reinvent itself again and again, without losing one essential uniqueness, would have been the perfect solution. But I, for one, have not known a single artist who possessed such a multiple creative personality. The more practical answer to this intractable problem of unchangeability of the artist is changeability of the public. That is, as the old admirer go on to seek new talents, the artist keeps acquiring the new and newer public, hitherto unacquainted with his work. The situation which is not altogether unfamiliar in other kinds of human relations. And those artists who are successful in this last undertaking are eventually rewarded with a highly coveted, honorable appellation, classics. 988. There are two kinds of unhappy people. The first are pained by what has been or is being done to them. The second are miserable because of what haven't been or isn't being done for them. And while it is relatively easy, or at least possible, to rectify the first situation, for it requires only the termination of ongoing activities, the second is much more difficult to ameliorate, since in this case something new must be originated, which always demands more initiative to be displayed and more energy to be spent. What further complicates the relief from the second kind of unhappiness, which presumably is caused not by the presence of evil, but by absence of good, is the multiplicity and variety of what different people consider to be good, plus the universally acknowledged fact that quite often, while experiencing Lockean uneasiness, we, not really knowing its cause, are at a loss to imagine what can take it away. And finally, seeing the satisfaction of the majority of our desires, even when we are perfectly certain about what we want, depends on the willingness of the others to accommodate us. This in itself often creates the insurmountable obstacles on the road to the happiness of the second kind. 989. To tell someone rushing through the flower garden to slow down and smell the roses may indeed be a sensible suggestion. But don't give up to the one who is trying as fast as he can to get out of the garbage dump. 990. God must really have a wicked sense of humor, but subjecting his chosen people, the Jews, who according to the Old Testament persistently defy him, the immaterial and transcendent deity, to continuous persecution by the Christians, who, in the ironic twist of fate, came to claim the lowliest of the Jews, widely despised and hated itinerant beggar, former carpenter Jesus, to be their made of flesh and blood God. 991. If I was asked by the budding bigot, which is highly improbable considering my ethnic status, how to achieve with minimum of effort but the maximum of certainty the success in such for our times both promising and uncertain career, I would have suggested first of all to be very careful when picking up the intended victim. For the surest bet for the one who have a long and promising future in this, now growing but somewhat tarnished and increasing in perilous occupation of bigotry, is to choose a potential target which is the least capable of retaliation due to its traditional reputation for meekness and defenselessness. The American blacks had been taught by their own experience this lesson the hard way, and when they felt it is their time to join the racists, they have chosen the Jews, surprise, surprise, as the safest and proven by a long history of persecution with impunity by just everybody, to be the most obliging victim, as the main target for in essence of the rapidly growing black racism. 992. The best proof for the truth of this famous pronouncement, "There is nothing new under the sun," can be found in the kind of words we use today to lament the moral decay and disintegration of the civil society in our times. For example, the words like crime, punishment, theft, robbery, murder, rape, adultery, homosexuality, etc., etc. For none of these similar terms are new, and as a matter of fact, had been in usage for centuries, if not for millennia. And since the words are introduced into the language to give the names to the already existing phenomena, their durability is undoubtedly the result of their capacity to aptly describe the types of human behavior which has been with us for a long, long time, and that indeed there is nothing new under the sun.